When the mine shut down in late 31, really nothing was done. You'll see all their tools are still leaning up against the wall and the wheelbarrow, and they're as if they're going to come back. You know, they've left and for whatever reason never made it back. Well, I think if you went there in the 20s and 30s, you probably had to take a boat to the mouth of the Marmot River, and then they would get up on trails, and then they would camp beside a little lake, and there'd be fish in it, and then they'd get up on the glacier, which was like a easy walking once you're on top of the glacier, because you can go for miles. I've crossed the Cambria ice field, and it's easy walking. It's just flat up there, and it was take them 2 days, and you know, they didn't know any different. In the wintertime, I would say conditions were quite severe. I've spent time about 10 kilometers south of there in November, and the wind would blow off the Cambria ice field, and you basically, we would put out pickets every few feet with flags on them so that you didn't get lost in a snowstorm. Blowing snow is very difficult unless you have goggles. You really can't see anything because the wind is blowing, and I'm sure up there were winds that are 100 miles an hour. As they built the tram line, a lot of the stuff would get trammed from one tower to another, and they slowly worked their way up and then hauled a lot of that heavy material under. But and a lot of the wagon trails here, they used to have wagon trails. It was really all it was a groove in the hillside. One wheel was over the bank, and one wheel was kind of locked into a groove on the hillside. And they probably came from the top. I don't know if you've seen the photos of the horses on snowshoes. They would go across the Cape Rhine Glacier. I think all the ice really restricted the early exploration. I think once people learned how to work around, with the glaciers and that, then came a different story here. I'd seen the Premier mine with big steel beams, I-beams, just twisted up from the snow load and so forth, and I was surprised that the building was still standing up there. Ice was still accumulating when they were mining. Back to the 30s, that's roughly when the maximum ice level was in this area. Between 1928 and 1931, they selectively mined. There was no mill, and they would take the highest grade, and I think the grade was about 2,800 grams silver. It's about 20 million ounces of silver up there right now. Because the Depression came along, I think that lack of money and just probably killed whatever operation there was. Some people would say it's an eyesore, and some people would say there's a lot of history in that hillside. So, depends how you look at it.
I've been looking forward to this day since I got my first glimpse at the Porter Idaho Mine last year. I'm very excited to say I'm partnering up with Yellowhead Helicopters once again, and if the weather cooperates, they'll be dropping me off as close as they can to the mine and leaving me to explore. I'm a little bit nervous and a lot of bit excited, and so far, the weather is looking okay.
What a rush. These guys with yellowhead helicopters, they're the bee's knees. Look at that old wheelbarrow. That's an interesting little can. And I think these two are backings to miner's lights, like headlamps. Just look at the view from up here. It's amazing. It's a pretty low ceiling right now, so they dropped me off down at the bottom, which is perfect because then I can kind of work my way up to the top, finding things along the way. But it's a bit of a hike, so let's get to it.
Big problem in the area was actual power for these operations. Like a lot of them during the summer could operate using Pelton wheels, and they generate electricity and so forth. In the wintertime, there's no water flowing, and so odds are that they would probably haul coal up to the Porter Idaho to generate power.
To me, I kind of think this is a steam power plant. I like that badge that's still on there. Wow. See a little rock path going along there. I'm gonna check that out before we make our way to the top. There's tailings piles all over this place, but there's tons to see, so I won't be going in any of the mine shafts. I wonder what this was for. It's an interesting little hand. Probably not for a clock. Lots of hill to climb, so let's keep moving. It's our first look up at the old tramway there.
Once they had the tramway in there, people would go up in cars, and they'd go up to the mine site in the cars, and that's how they'd get stuff up there, and then they'd bring the ore down. It was a short lifespan. The actual underground workings are along a shear zone, and so it tends to be difficult mining. The ground is not very stable. When they brought the ore from the Porter Idaho, they would have brought it to the tidewater, and then they sorted it. They'd load it on barges, and then they took it to Tacoma in Washington to a smelter. That's where the ore got smelted. An awful lot of little tunnels driven in the early days. Everybody was looking for their fortune. And so when there's not a lot of work, a little bit of food and a little bit of hard work, and you hope to make your fortune.
Would have been a shaft there, but it's collapsed. Following some goat tracks up the trail here. They're probably having more fun on the steep stuff than me. The fog's starting to clear, getting our first look at a couple of the buildings up here. That fog just keeps rolling through, but here's a good look at the buildings that are left. And looking down in the snow here, you can see some wood and iron. Imagine how much is left underneath this big chunk, because a good percentage of this is going to be here all year long. Ah, dang. That's not an entrance. Hey, this is pretty cool. Just outside this first building here, these are tiny little crucibles for assaying material. I've never seen them so, I don't want to say decomposed, eroded. That one's in good shape. Pretty neat little find though. Being so high up here in the Alpine, with the amount of snow they have every year, I'm surprised how good a shape this building is actually in. I'm assuming it would have been partially maybe a cook shack and then assay shack. I'm not sure. I never take anything from these old sites, but anyone that does reclaimed furniture, how cool could you make this old table? Really neat. Where a fire extinguisher went. When I first came in here and thought that this was possibly cook shack, it's because I saw this, but I think this is for drying out samples. I think this whole shack was just for assaying. A couple of really neat things I found right here in the cabin. Look at this. It's the lid or the front of an old box. 50 pounds of ground coffee out of Vancouver. And there's just one board left from the door. But check this out. The old latch. This is gonna be base camp here. I'm leaving pretty much all of the gear just to lighten things up and then do a couple trips out. I have another 5 hours before the chopper is back. This fog is just not lifting here, but I want to get up to that building. There's a couple mountain goats up there. They're so tuned in. They, even just the slightest movement down here, they spotted me. See if we can make our way up there. Would have been neat to see this while it was still standing. Pretty uptown building way up here at the top of the mountain. Even had radiators for heat. Check out that DIY barbecue. Just made a really cool find here. Well, it's not even a find, I just spotted it. Look at this vehicle. So this must have run along a track system. But look at the friggin' engine on that thing. Holy smokes. Crazy. I like how the front articulates like that. And then would have been some sort of tank there, probably just a fuel tank. Not sure though. Wow. Big building. I love how this is built into the bedrock like this. But even more, look at this wall. Just stacked up rocks. There's no bonding cement or anything in there. So this is the massive gearbox for the tram that comes all the way up here. I kind of expected to see something bigger, but I have nothing to compare it to. If I'm lucky, I can cross over here. Ooh, that's interesting. Wow, look at this. You can still almost disengage it. I don't want to cross this. A little bit too risky, but I don't see a problem with going down here if I can squeeze through this little gap. There we go. There's more over here. How the heck do I get in there? The stairs to get down to this last level are gone. I'm just walking across the timbers here in this middle section. See if I can find a spot that's low enough to drop down. Wow, imagine the force that caused that to break. Can't believe everything still moves on this. That mountain goat is right there. It doesn't care that I'm here at all. Hey, mountain goat. Hey, mountain goat. What are you doing, bud? I cannot believe that mountain goat let me get so close. The baby was right here. That baby is a cute little thing. So I'm guessing this old rail line that goes along here, this is original. This will date back to the same era as the mine. All these core samples, these would be more recent. And then just piled up all along this flat section where the line runs. Did a lot of coring here. As we were scoping things out from the helicopter, Lewis told me there's a rock building further up here. I'm gonna hike up and see if I can find that. Come across a couple of these flat spots here where buildings were at some point. Must have burnt down, hardly anything left of them. Wild, they run power all the way up here. I can't risk trying to get across this whole section up here. Like, this little patch of snow is no biggie, but that's a long section to try and get across. If I slip on that, it's a long slide down there. So I guess I'll go back and try one of these other routes. Tried for a bit of a shortcut here. Maybe not the best choice. Oh yeah, look at that thing. Wow, it's a lot bigger than I expected. We've come out along the top of it here. Oh, look at the steps. This is amazing. This rock work is so neat. Never seen anything else quite like this. I wonder if this was part of the door on the stove. It's a really thick piece of glass. Just think over the years, all the people back in the day that have walked up and down these steps. Okie dokie, let's make our way off of this mountaintop. I can see a bunch of cans and stuff hidden way in this crack here. I'm hoping, since they're out of the weather, they might have some sort of marking on them, some paint or something left. Nothing. There's a bunch in there though. Wow, they really put a lot of faith in that one single 2x4. Check this out. This must have been where some people were actually living. All kinds of stuff up here. Old fire extinguishers. Apple juice. Look at that old fridge. That's a mine shaft right there. And you got the rails coming out, and then out here there's a bunch of tailings. And the amount of water that's coming out of this shaft is crazy. Went and took a little peek in there. It's totally full of water. No way to get in. There's a lot of water coming out though. Wow, look at this old saw. That's cool. Lots of different layers here in the core samples. That's a neat one. I've got a couple more hours before the helicopter is back, but I know there's more down there and I'd like to check it out. It looks so cool when the fog burns off and you can see all the towers from the air tram. It's crazy though, in like 30 seconds the fog will roll in here so thick I can't even see that building there. Wow, big diesel generator here. There's an old Ingersoll Rand. That's pretty cool. Oh wow, there's more modern stuff there. I'm almost 100% certain those are for landing helicopters on, for people that are coming up and doing surveying and stuff up here. Look, all kinds of platforms there and there. There's something over there. And then get back into some old stuff here. I'd love to get across here, but it's just too much risk. It's so steep. Once you start sliding, you're not stopping till down there, doing 100 kilometers an hour by then. Check this one out. It's rusted through and leaked, so there's no contents anymore, but it never was opened. The chopper arrives in 1 hour, which puts us a little bit behind schedule right now. But there's so much to see up here, I just couldn't get away from it. But we should be able to get down a lot faster than coming up, so hopefully that'll score us a bit of time. Let's get out of here. That's wild. Those are my footprints from coming in. They look like they've been there for a long time. It is cold up here. Took an awful lot of force to pull that thing over. Look how they anchored this thing in here. Just drilled holes in the rock and hammered little railway spikes in them. That's pretty cool. Haven't seen that before.
Things aren't looking so good at my pickup spot here. All this dense fog just blew in. Hopefully it'll just kind of breeze right on past, but I'm supposed to be getting picked up at 4 o'clock, which is in 10 minutes. So might be in for a bit of a wait, but for now, just chilling.
It's just barely clearing up right now. I can hear the chopper coming. Right on time. They made it. I can hardly believe it. Here they come.
He's not a good man walking. Brand new, off-white, Rolls-Royce, Bob White.
Lucky for me, the weather stayed in our favor, so Lewis took me around for some scenic flying. We checked out some other mines in the area, saw some wildlife, and then dropped down into the valley, where we got to fly right up the river to the base of the glacier. It was awesome.
Big red river in his eyes he can't see. He's not a good man walking.
Did a few passes by the lower Tram building, which is in remarkably good condition, but unfortunately inaccessible. Last year I actually wanted to hike here, but now looking from the helicopter, it is clearly not possible. Then, back to the hangar while the weather is good.
More in his pocket. He's not a good man, no.
I'd like to give a great big thank you to Yellowhead Helicopters for making this adventure possible. And of course, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. I'll catch you on the next one.
Light a match, let it go. The fire catch, explode.